Listen up! There is a storm coming! Like nothing you have ever seen!
Hey folks, how are ya? Just finishing a couple of notes here. Tim, I'll ring you back shortly. Not Tim Dwyer, different Tim. Just rang me as I was hitting the button to go to air. So I hope things go well with your part of the world, mate. Hello everybody. Where do I start? I suppose I'll start at the top of the list. Bloody mouse isn't working tonight for some reason. Pain in the left one. Chris was in the room first, mate. Good effort on your behalf. Hello, Paul. Harry's in. Got your email, Harry. Thanks for that. I expect I'll be around your part of the world possibly next weekend, just between you, me, and the Gatepost. Pineapple. Jason West is in the house. Looking down. Hill Summit. JJ, good to see you guys in. All right. So what channels are we running on tonight? We are not live on the Voice of Freedom on YouTube. They gave me a 1 week suspension for the Rapanyup show that I did 3 weeks ago or more. That was the one that I also got a 2 week suspension for on the Nun 2K channel. In theory, I should have got the Voice of Freedom channel back before I got the Nun 2K channel back, but here we are looking at Nun 2K and nothing on Voice of Freedom. So I don't know. They don't tend to answer emails from me either these days. So we may never get back on the Voice of Freedom channel on YouTube. Not a big loss, but it is what it is. You can always go to Rumble, find me there under Ozeye, the nickname Ozeye, Ozeye, or Voice of Freedom will find me too. So thank you to everybody who turned up to have a look at the shrine, and remember those that gave the most. They're all for us in World War I on Saturday. There was a huge, well, by comparison, a very large crowd compared to last year turned up. There were, well, it's easier to say at the end of it, it was easy to see where the vast majority of the crowd were. Once the dignitaries and the invited guests and the elderly and those seated in the official seating areas had left, and once the official military parade people had left the shrine area, those that weren't involved with my place or with Tim Dwyer or with Voice of Freedom or indeed Yuha's crew who came all the way from Sydney, and it turns out not the furthest distant travel. There were people from far north Queensland. I don't know why I didn't meet you guys. People from far north Queensland who were down, people from the central coast of New South Wales, some from South Australia. Obviously the Dwyers came over, which was fabulous, and a great time had by all. Greenie, I love your motorbike, mate. It's been a long time since I've seen an FJ 1100, and yours is in pristine condition. I don't know. You must go home and put it in the lounge room and lick it clean, because it was just stunning. So nice bike, really nice bike. I can't probably go quoting bikes without talking about Patrizia's bike. So Patrizia brought her bike along too. It's a little bit smaller than the FJ 1100. At least it's not electric. I can say that. And she rides it like a demon. Thank you, Paul, for your $5. Thank you for the fuel money. The sticker goes a long way. So before we may as well get on to fuel, because that's always going to be the fun thing. I'm taking notes here as I'm thinking of things. It's been a hell of a day again. Today was the day we went to go and get the LPG fixed, and Bill, bloody great bloke, Bill's a very clever man, but not clever enough. Turns out that for those of you that are mechanically minded, it's not just a hose that I seem to have blown. I seem to have put a hole in, well, somewhere else, or it may be somewheres else. this term will mean something to you. It's not creating a vacuum when under throttle. So we can see that because the duct tape part of the rubber that we're holding onto is sucking in and trying to pinch closed. So he didn't have the equipment to be able to find where else in the motor we may have got holes. So he did point out there were 3 or 4 places that needed to be checked. 2 of those have already been done by the guys that helped me on the side of the road with the one-way valve previously. But I will admit those pipes are not terribly well connected. So I don't know if they're meant to be that way or not. A bit more investigation required online for that, and maybe we need to put a bit of restraint around each end. But at this stage of the game, I will not be running LPG when I leave Melbourne. So I'm a little bit fearful of that. However, there is a plus side. The hydrogen is back working again. So when the LPG went bang, I knew it wasn't the hydrogen that went bang, because the hydrogen, A, hadn't had enough time to even turn on, let alone put anything into the motor, and B, if it had have, then I wouldn't have been sitting in the right seat anymore. I'd have been blown through the side of the vehicle. So no, that's probably a bit of an exaggeration, but I wouldn't be fit and healthy, put it that way. So yeah, when all that happened, I thought, because I didn't know what damage I may have done to the fuel system either, the petrol system. So I thought the better part of valor was to disconnect it, and all I did was take the earth wire off a relay switch that sits up beside me and depowers the system. So I haven't had anything to worry about, other than pulling up at Bowser's and filling up on petrol. So I haven't had a really full run of petrol by itself, because I didn't use it on the way down a great deal. So this has been a bit fortuitous, because I've been able to do quite a few kilometres on petrol only. And I will tell you, this thing is a slug. No, not a slug. I'm being a bit harsh. I mean, she's 8, let's call it 8 ton, plus a trailer. She's 24 years old. I am not driving a drag car. I am not even driving a race car. So I don't have those sorts of expectations. In fact, I want to treat her very gently. I don't want her blowing anything anywhere anymore for the foreseeable future, because as we are finding out, it's very difficult to get bits for it. And to be honest, the cost of getting this changed over to a diesel and just dropping a Cummins diesel motor in it or something like that, which is probably what we would have to do if it got to a point where it didn't work anymore, is pretty exy. I mean, you wouldn't get much change out of $40,000, I wouldn't think, by the time it was fitted. But we'll wait and see. Hopefully it won't be that bad. Bill today did say with the LPG that it is such an old system that they don't use this kind of mixing system anymore, and haven't since 2004. Instead, LPG went to a rail delivery or an injector system. I've been trying to contact some people, installers, LPG installers. Turns out they're few and far between, and that's because LPG is being phased out. The cabs have gone to hybrid vehicles or fully electric, and really the cabs, and to a lesser extent limousines and those sorts of buses that are doing crew transfers from airports run on LPG, they're the only things keeping the LPG market going. So I spoke to a couple of servos on the way down, particularly in New South Wales, where you really have to plan your trip if you want to stick to LPG. And they just told me as soon as the pumps break down and can't be repaired, they just rip them out and won't replace them. So that's a bit of a worrying thing for the future with LPG. Anyway, decisions for down the track. Thankfully, the hydrogen is working, and on petrol, it makes a significant difference. I'm still not driving a drag car or a race car, but if you want to talk in terms let's say a drag car. Drag cars are measured over the quarter mile mostly, but within that quarter mile, they are over timed increments. And there is a thing called a 0 to 60 foot time, which the teams are very closely looking at because that is their launch, their get off the go and get to a certain speed. And that'll tell them about wheel spin or wheel. Yeah, anyway, getting a bit technical. I don't have wheel spin or chatter or anything like that, but it has increased, or rather decreased, my 0 to 60, my 0 to 80, and my 0 to 100 kilometre an hour time on flat road without a run up or going down a hill dramatically. My engine almost, well, certainly within 30 seconds of the hydrogen system coming live, the engine began running smoother, immediately smoother. I let her warm up, and I drove from Bacchus Marsh to a BP service station about 25 kilometres back down the Western Highway just to see whether or not it was going to stay working. And it did. And it was bloody magnificent. I mean, the thing wanted to pull past 100 kilometres an hour. It was like a young stallion wanting to get up, should I say a young Mustang, ready to get up and run. I was blown away by it, literally blown away by it. Unfortunately, as I came into this BP Rock Bank, somewhere like that, outbound, maybe an exuberance of the wheels spinning so freely and going so quickly, getting to their 90, 100 kilometre an hour pace really, really quickly. The driver's side front wheel had a valve extender on it so that it could come out from the silver chrome work around the wheel. And on that was attached a tyre pressure monitor that was all then pinned to said silvery bit, and it was there, been there for however 6,000 plus kilometres that I've done. And unfortunately, it chose that time, thankfully rather, it chose that time as I was just coming into the servo and slowing down, hadn't quite entered the intro lane, but it popped out of the wheel completely and started spinning around with the wheel. The tyre pressure monitor shattered into a million bits. The bits that didn't depart, everything stayed there and got dragged along and smashed into the road. I luckily had the window open, and I heard this, starting to sound like a flat tire. And as soon as I got into the servo, I pulled out, stuck my head out the window and had a look, and sure enough, could see the tire was going down slowly. Jumped out, had a look, and it hadn't ripped the valve out of it completely, but it was clearly not going to hold any more air. So quickly I went and parked her up and put it up on the stands and called Doris. Now, this will sound a bit weird. Doris, you may remember a couple of weeks ago, was one of our hosts at my place, Vic West. And we had a great couple of days actually at Vic West Organics. Doris has a wonderful husband named Michael. Michael is a very mechanical man, and has had some dealings with heavy vehicles as well. I was just thinking, oh, look, I'm going to have to pull the spare off and put that on. It's just going to be how it is. Turns out Michael's turned up to give me a hand. We've pulled it off, well, pulled the shiny silver bit off the rim and had a bit of a look. And we were able to just untwist this extender, and the valve on the tire is still okay. I just need a new valve extender so that I can not have to pull the shiny silver bit off every time I want to put air into that front tire. However, that was beautiful. And then Michael said, "Hey, you come my place, wonderful, we eat." And I said, "Bloody great idea." So parked up there beside their place again, last night, and I'll be there again tonight. Tomorrow I'm into Ainsley Bullion to have a chat with Michael. The plan is to be able to get that back and play for you tomorrow night. There's some magnificent, really, really cool, if you like dragons, there are some really cool new coins that are out that have dragons on them. And while I don't think I can afford any of them, I'm really keen to go and have a look at them. And Michael's prepared to show me, so that's how it's going to be. Into Ainsley tomorrow, and we'll have a bit of a talk about gold and silver and the markets and where things are going at the moment. Of course, they don't predict the market or anything like that. They can only work with the spot rate they're given, but they do look after Voice of Freedom people pretty well, and we'll have a talk about self-managed super funds. Obviously, if you're keen and involved in that sort of thing where you want to get your money out of big super, the markets are on pretty shaky ground. The mainstream media aren't going to tell you that. There are certain Telegram channels that are following the markets very, very closely, and they do go into great detail, and they include things like charts and spreadsheets and all those things that my eyes and brain just do not compute with. So I just generally read the blurb, and they say, yes, it's doing this, or no, it's not doing that. Well, it seems to be at the moment that it's being artificially propped up by some banks, and the call is about to be made on those banks. The way that it's going to work is that there has been a deliberate manipulation of the price of silver and deliberate suppression, downward pressure placed on it. Now, there've been talk of an ounce of silver going from $40, let's say, to $40,000. Look, is that possible? Yes. Yes, it is possible. What happens when all of us who've rushed out and bought silver and see that it all jumps up to $40,000? What will happen to the price? And while we're standing in line, doesn't matter which bullion seller you're at, while we're standing in line eagerly awaiting to reap the reward of our silver investment, the price is going to get dropped down. By the time you get to the window, much less by the time you actually get to the minute of exchange, because that's when you will get the price that you get, because it changes every 15 seconds. So the price you walk in the door at will not be, in all likelihood on a day like that, not be the same price that you have by the time you actually get to handing over your whatever it is to X amount of money to get your gold or silver, or sell it rather. So be aware that it will drop, and there is a lot of speculation as to how far it will drop and how fast. Now, I don't expect it will drop fast, certainly not as fast as it rose. Gold will also be at a fairly high rate too, whether that is on a par with silver, more or less. I've heard a lot of summation about both sides of that argument. So at the moment, I'd say the jury is still out. Silver could, in fact, outstrip gold. However, it too will suffer the same fate. A lot of people will start selling their gold, and a lot of people won't go in and stand in line to do it. They'll just ring up the vaults and say, sell it now. And the vaults will pick up the phone. And if we use the vault as one example, they'll ring Ainsley and say, right, I've got $3 million worth of gold to sell now. And it'll be done there and then. So I've seen it done. That's how it's done. So, it's going to be a very live market, is what I'm saying. So just be aware of that. Yes, you'll all be millionaires or multimillionaires briefly, but unless you can actually sell it quickly, and I think I'm only guessing, but I'm assuming that the best way for that to be would be from a vault, where it's just a transfer of ownership rather than the actual metals. And I will ask that question of Michael tomorrow, if I remember. But I think that's pretty much how it will work. Whichever way you decide to go with it, it's going to be worth a lot more than $40 an ounce. Even if it dropped back to what gold currently is at $3,000 an ounce, you would consider that a pretty good investment. And if you've managed to secrete away a reasonable chunk, particularly of silver, then you're going to be pretty good for a fair while. That abundance everybody's talking about, you could be seeing a fair bit of that. So, so yeah, I'd be trying to get my money out of Big Super if it is still in there at all. I've spoken to a couple of friends of mine, and in fact, a couple more today via the phone, that they are very keen too. So I'm going to hook them up with Cass and the girls at Freedom Financial Solutions, and within a couple of weeks, it all could be yours. You don't have to beg, borrow, or steal from a big super company. You can own your own self-managed super fund, have your own pile of gold and silver, and do with it pretty much as you will. There is a lot of very interesting, I mean, you can't go out and spend it willy-nilly, but there are a lot of interesting ways you can invest it, where it's going to give you a much greater return than anything you're going to get through the super funds. And bear in mind, when you're in a super fund, you're paying fees. Those fees are going all the way down to that financial advisor who's telling you to keep going into the super fund and keep putting into the super fund. So just remember that. Much better to have that gold and silver back in your pockets. And, well, Jared is saying super returns were good for the last financial year. Well, good compared to what? Did they double? Because that's what silver has done in the last 18 months or 2 years. It doubled. Gold has been pretty much similar, and it's been pretty stable. So has your super investment doubled in size since COVID? I guess that's the question. If it has, you're probably doing all right, like you say. I still don't know that I would leave it in all of it. Even if there's nothing that says you have to take all your super out if you're still nervous about that. So you can leave some in there and just take a chunk out and put it into a self-managed super fund of your own, and try it. You've got a foot in both sides. But when the market comes down, crashing down around everyone's ears, when that crash happens, and it is going to happen, I'm 100% sure of it. It is going to happen. When that happens, there will be no super in Big Super anymore. It'll all be gone. Every bit of it. Will there be some saving program in the background? Afterwards, the government comes to bail you out, meaning all the other Australians. Well, I don't think that's going to happen either. That'd be like introducing a new tax on us all, wouldn't it? And it has been done before. I remember there was a $100 tax on everybody who had more than one home in Victoria there at one stage to rebuild Victoria after bushfires. I want to say Jeff Kennett brought that in. And to his credit, I want to say he also took it out as soon as they'd raised the money that was required, and they rebuilt Victoria. So I don't know. Some would say, no, I'm not going to say that. Not going to say that at all. All right, I've got a couple of quick things to show you tonight. I'm surprised. I don't know what my connection's like. I've been having all manner of trouble connecting and trying to set these shows up. So if it's a bit jerky, I apologize. There's just not too much I can do about that. I want to show you something that I found terribly interesting. This came out of Antarctica. Does anybody know? Could you possibly tell me? My question is, why are there 3 suns? Why are there 3 suns? That's sort of how bright they are. But you also notice it seems to be coming from the ground and shooting up. We've been hearing some interesting things out of Antarctica. So, well, I don't know. I'm not sure that this will play, but this is another TikTok video that I saw recently, and remember I haven't shown you yet.
I'm from outer space, I got Milky Way for blood, evolution in my veins. I'm gone, I've been far away, I'm illuminated, now I make a move, start of waves. I've been dreaming of my flying for a long time. I had a vision from the birds, they want a cosign. Artificially intelligent way, I'm the future, past and present, I'm a fine line. Yeah, I'm a missing link of this illusion. I am not really here, I'm an intrusion. I don't feel sick, I just flow. I don't need gravity, I just need growth. When I move, it's set up with
There are some amazing things you can do with a green screen. Truly amazing things you can do with a green screen. And reflective truth, I think we could probably call that bit. You see an awful lot in reflections, and that doesn't just go for things to do with NASA, between you, me, and the gatepost. Here's some interesting news I saw from Sky News Australia. It's not going to end well for Labor. Who knew? Would have thought that. Australia suffers the largest fall in living standards in history. I mean, well, that's not news, is it, really? I mean, we're living it. So it's not really news, but at least it's nice to see that, well, Sky News at least are acknowledging it and seeming to lay some responsibility on those that would pretend to be leading us. Leading this country doesn't seem to have consequences for the decisions and the bad actions taken by some players. Now, it's come to light that there could be as many as 7 rapists, politicians that are rapists, wandering the halls in Canberra at the moment. It's come to light that since Brittany Higgins' case a while ago, 7 more complaints have been made to the AFP and have been referred. Is Parliament House the rape capital of Australia? People have had enough of the goings-on in Canberra. These pathetic people who are pretending to be leaders feel they can act with impunity and have no consequences. Thankfully, the American people who have been suffering this same kind of suppression, this same kind of censorship, and this same kind of stupidity are fighting back. And some states are doing so in great style. The federal judge issued an order on November 10 denying the Georgia State Election Board motions to dismiss the Curling and Raffensperger case. They claim Dominion was secure. The case is set for trial beginning on January 9th. Now, she was scathing in her order about the massive vulnerabilities Dominion voting machines and the conduct of Raffensperger and the company in general. That doesn't sound very good. So Dominion voting machines under the inspection again. And it sounds like a judge who has some vague idea or understanding of the illegalities that went on before in the vote counts in Georgia. Now, that's just, well, probably not even the latest. I think that one's a couple of days old. So there are more since then. Remember, we had 300,000 plus sealed indictments, and we weren't going to hear too much about that until, the game was nearly up. Well, all of a sudden, all these states, including Maricopa County, are issuing indictments on people for election fraud, for tampering, for illegal election fundraising, for vote rigging, for multiple counting, for ballot box stuffing. These indictments are coming out in large numbers every day. Mainstream media aren't telling everybody too much about it, but they are happening pretty much every day. So take heed, Australian bureaucrats. Take heed, those who call yourself our leaders in that place in Canberra. That place in Canberra, wow, got plans for that place in Canberra. The people should be taking that back and doing something good with it for a change. But it's probably not likely to happen in the near future. We have to let these people essentially go through the motions of what they're doing at the moment, because now more people are awake than ever. In the last few days, I've been eavesdropping around conversations and people in shops who all of a sudden are talking about things and sometimes the jibbity jab, sometimes, because there's a new There's a new threat, drama, emergency warning I saw come out on one of the news channels earlier today. The next great pandemic could be just around the corner. So could a bus that's going to run into your house. But the next pandemic could be just around the corner. And we have to be prepared for that, of course. What will that pandemic be? Looks like it's going to be whooping cough, according to this bright spark out of Sydney, who works with children in great detail and claims that whooping cough is going to be the next great pandemic. Now, I'm not going to belittle whooping cough as a disease and something that can be life-threatening. Absolutely. If you haven't seen a video, I've seen a video of a child with whooping cough, and it's just horrendous. Would never wish that on anyone, let alone just a newborn. But he's warning that this is going to be across all age groups, and it's going to be the world's, greatest, next big, worst thing. So we should get vaccinated. Make sure you get vaccinated. No, we shouldn't. No, stay away from the vaccine. Stay away. A whole heap of highly vaccinated people recently jumped on a cruise ship. This was wonderful. Wonderful one. I'm going to have to take this video down after what I just said. Otherwise, I'll ban the channel again. Just thinking about it. So cruise ship has turned up in Adelaide, and yeah. So if you're watching this, well, you won't watch it because I'll be taking it down. Rumble. I won't take it down off Rumble, but I will have to take it down off YouTube, I think. Cruise ship arrives in Adelaide. I think there's 2,600 guests, 1,200 odd staff on board. They've been on a cruise around the top 18 days and wind up back in, I'm not sure if it was Cairns to Adelaide or Darwin to Adelaide, somewhere anyway. People had the misfortune of getting the big C, the dreaded cough, and gastro, all in the one go. Gastro on board a ship, very unpleasant. Very unpleasant. Lots of people complaining about the smells wafting down the halls. Very unpleasant. So what do? Well, they offload a whole heap of people in Adelaide who have apparently got this thing that they got a jab for to not get. And they've got the shits as well. I guess the fun part of that will be they won't be going far for a little while. But Adelaide, look out. And then, of course, some will have got off the boat and gone straight to an airport via the toilets. And they'll be back in their home state, home city, hometown. And what's the bet? We start getting little mentions of, outbreaks around the country. Just a guess. That's all I'm saying. Just a bit of a guess. I don't think I've got too much else there to tell you tonight. Let me have a bit of a glance through what you've been saying. Juice. I have to tell you that Patrizia, who rides this little motorbike, brought me a healthy juice. She's very keen to help me lose a bit of weight. Unfortunately, it's by doing healthy things like going for walks, and she owns a personal training business. So yeah, punishing, I think, would be the way we would see her. And she's only 4'6". There's nothing of her, but she's the kind of girl I think that would make you work very, very hard to attain your goals. And that's the way you want a PT to be. So with a bit of luck, before I leave Melbourne, we'll catch up and go for a bit of a walk. That's about all I'm capable of. There's no jogging at the moment. But yeah, we'll go for a bit of a walk, and I will be leaving Melbourne and heading east, sort of, and then north eventually. I will be travelling over to the coast, and you might see me in Canberra. You might see me down around Bateman's Bay, Nowra, Wollongong, Sydney. Where else? I've got to ring Brad and the boys at the Cali and see whether or not they have room for me to pull up for a day or two and say good day. And then I'd like to call into Port Macquarie because I haven't been there, and there's been lots of people who say, "Oh, come to Port Macquarie," including Penny from my place. So I think, having met Penny in Sydney when I went there with Darren to the meeting we had there, you don't take well. When Penny says do something, you go and do it. Ask Vince; he knows. So yes. So in the next few days or so, we'll have some hydrogen numbers. Looking forward to sharing those with you. Given that our fuel burn on the way down from memory, just on the times where we were using petrol, was 40. No, it wasn't that high. It was in the 30s. It was 32 litres, I think. 32 litres per 100 Ks on petrol. So I'm imagining if this works as well on petrol as it did on the LPG, we will drop down to maybe the low 20s, low to mid 20s. And then by the time we've run the second or third tank through it, I expect we'll be at around 20 or 18 to 20 is where I'm predicting. Given the rate it fell after we plugged it in with the LPG, it was staggering. And that represents, given we're doing a lot of kilometres, that represents a big saving in fuel going forward. I could potentially go another near enough to 200 kilometres on the same fuel I ran down coming down. So, and don't take that as gospel because maths isn't my strongest point, numbers involved and all that. But what's our tank? Our tank is 250 litre petrol tank it is. So 20% of that is what, 25? No, that'll be 50. So that would give me another over 100 kilometres, probably close to 150 to 180 kilometres. And that's me just trying to do maths in my head. So I'm going to stick with 200 and drive at about 85, 90 kilometres an hour. And we'll see what sort of a difference that makes. I did have one last thing. If I'm going to be taking the video down anyway, I might as well go the whole hog and let you know. I've met a lot of people recently who haven't understood the Fed and what the Federal Reserve is and how it was set up, how it works. Of course, a lot of nastiness involved in setting the Fed up, and a lot of people died in the setting up of the Fed, or just prior to it in the Titanic. But have a look at this video. I'm not sure if it came off TikTok or somewhere else, but it does explain quite clearly how the Fed was set up and how gold and silver, and why gold and silver is so important to a financial system. And if it's that important to a financial system, you should have some. Doesn't mean you've got to build your house out of it, but you should have some. Have a watch of this.
It's the third central bank America has had, because every president has warned against central banks, like the Bank of England. And the Fed is not federal, it has no reserves, and it's not a bank. It's a cartel of banks. And in 1913, the Fed, the third one, was created, starting with President Washington, said, do not have a central bank. Since, 1776. Not only was the Fed created in 1913, so was the taxman. The Beatles always saying about the taxman. Well, in 1913, the 16th Amendment was passed, which caused America to be taxed. And almost up to that point, till 1913, America was a tax-free nation. So what does that tell you? For money to exist, taxes had to exist. Hear me out. For money to exist, the dollar or the pound, taxes had to exist. So it was one of the biggest scams going. And that's why 1913 is so important. And then in 1944, as World War II was winding down, the world agreed to make the U.S. dollar the reserve currency of the world, which it is today, if America promised to keep it backed by gold.
There you go. Does that explain a little bit to you? Gold and silver, go and get some if you have the opportunity, even if it's just $40 to go and buy yourself a bit of silver, or $20, go and buy yourself a half ounce. Because if it does just jump to $40,000 and you happen to be at the head of the queue that day, that $20 investment could turn into 20 grand pretty easy. Wouldn't be a bad investment to be making, I hope. Thank you to everybody in Melbourne. I'm hanging around tomorrow, and Darren and I, there's still a chance I might wind up back down in Frankston yet for a meeting. We're discussing a couple of things. So, yes, in at Ainsley tomorrow, then I'll figure out what I'm going to do. Patrizia does seem to be quite intent on taking me for a walk somewhere along the beach at St Kilda. And after she turned up at the shrine the other day and gave me some of her cold press juice, now, I'm probably going to tell you too much about this girl, but she's PT, very fit, very vegan. So when she said she was bringing me a juice to try, because I've been drinking a lot of juice here, pineapple juice and mango juice, that sort of stuff, love it. All full of sugar, apparently. Who knew? Fruit, full of sugar. Bugger me. Anyway, probably not the healthiest thing, she said. I'll bring you one of my juices, and I was thrilled. You know, had some of those things before. You know, it doesn't sound like it tastes like something the cow ate and then passed through and pissed out and somebody mulched up and threw some ice cream in with. I was beyond pleasantly surprised at the taste of this stuff. In fact, bloody magnificent. I would have sworn there was lemonade in it until the ginger got me. And the lips started to tingle, bit of a thing in the throat going, and I'm addicted to it. Who knew vegetables could taste so good? Seriously. So if for no other reason, she's promised me another bottle of juice. So my motivation to go back at least south of the city as far as St Kilda and go for a walk along the beach in reward for a bottle of juice is right up there. So I might wind up hanging out for that yet. Thank you, Dingo, for the coffee. I'm probably going to need that at some stage between departing Melbourne and heading off. And arriving in Canberra or wherever we wind up pulling up. I just want to thank everybody who I've run into down here while I've been in Melbourne. I haven't left yet. Hope to see a few more of you. There are two people, including my Melbourne Angel, that I haven't been able to catch up with yet. I'm really hoping that I can make that happen. I'm on a bit of a time frame now. I have to be at a certain place in time next week. So, and it's a long way from here. So it's in New South Wales. We're not quite halfway home, but I'll be getting there. And if I have an opportunity, wind up staying another day or two here, then I will definitely try and catch up. But it has been very busy, and with a few of the issues with the old girl, and trying to get those sorted. It just hasn't been possible to see everyone. So I apologize if you were hoping to bump into me or run into me and we haven't crossed paths. And I said I would try and catch up. Don't worry, we'll be back. Laura's already onto me. She wants to come back. Richard and Misha, I can't wait to come back and be able to spend a little bit of time with you guys. And hopefully we can park up somewhere close and we can share puppy stories and have a good few days together. And I know Laura would really look forward to that too. And Greenie, I'm very keen to come to your property and check that out. And I'm not getting on a motorbike. I'm not getting on a dirt bike. I used to ride them years ago, but I think my bike days are well behind me. However, if you had a side-by-side, Razor side-by-side, something like that, I'd be into that. A little bit of rally car driving. Be very happy to do that. Yep, Agate Master, good to see you back in the room. I haven't seen you around for a little while. Who else? Yes, that's 100% right. The world has been very, very good. The world has been hoodwinked with regards to wars, and it's not just the USA. We're talking about total global control here. So it's not just the USA. You can't blame them on everything. Alana, you've been trying to contact My Place Berwick. Only contact us Facebook, which you don't use. I want to say that you can, if you use Telegram, I want to say you might be able to find them through there these days. And if not, you can go to myplaceaustralia.org and send an email to the admins there saying you're trying to contact Berwick My Place, and they will put you in touch with someone. And if you do that, say tonight or tomorrow, I'm likely to be catching up with Darren at some stage. Well, depending on how long I'm at Ainsley, it's probably likely to be Wednesday if I'm still in Melbourne. So I'll try and remember to make mention of it to him then. But yes, that would be the way I would go through it. Go through myplaceaustralia.org and email the admins, and I'm sure they'll be able to hook you up. What else have we got going on here? Veronique, thank you, darling. Yeah, well, I tell you what, it might be a juice. I'd never even heard of cold press juicing before. And when I suggested, why don't you just get a blender and, blitz it up, I didn't even get an answer from her. She just scowled at me. It's quite intimidating anyway. Yeah, she's a hell of a juice maker and has a gym. Thank God I don't live in Melbourne is all I can say. I've got a sneaking suspicion I might be strapped to one of those bloody weightlifting machines, which wouldn't be a bad thing for me, I'm sure. Yeah, there's a few things I'm trying to resist from saying, so I'm not helping myself here. Yes, Paul. Oh, shit, where did that go? Mango juice has no sugar in it anymore. It's been converted. Oh, very nice. Speaking of converted, Paul, where are you? There you are. Paul, yes, Goldfields, Charters Towers. So Charters Towers and the Goldfields there. I had actually forgotten about the Goldfields as such in Charters Towers. But Charters Towers is on our list for the run up to far north Queensland early next year. So not going to come up when it's at its hottest. Although probably should go and try and experience it at every time of year. But it's also the wettest and the highest chance of cyclones and all that sort of crap. So I don't want to be driving this around in a cyclone just between you, me, and the gatepost. So more likelihood of early next year. And when I say early, that probably means March at the earliest. And then we'll make our way north as it starts to cool down. And when I say we, probably just me at this stage. Laura, as far as I know, is still gainfully employed. So we hope to get maybe a little time over Christmas where we might go for a run somewhere, whether it be down into northern New South Wales or out west to Toowoomba or further afield. And it'll be a sort of like weekend or holiday break, if you like. But I'll, do a few shows or whatever we got to do while we're around. So happy to meet people all the time. But Laura hasn't been in the thing yet for a run. Other than taking it for a drive down to the Gold Coast with me to show my mum one day. So she's a bit excited about getting into it and seeing how much fun it is. And it can be challenging fun. Really challenging fun and bloody expensive. Got the bill. I'm not going to go into that. Got the bill for the fix for this the other day, though, on it. We've got to do a little bit of work on it because somehow they've sent me two bills and the figures are different, but we'll figure it out. They did a great job, Ballarat Truck Centre, so I'm not going to stiff them in any way, shape or form. Steve's in the house. Yes, mate. Everything goes well with a nice Redlands native gin. I couldn't agree more with you, mate. I hope things are going well. For those folks who aren't aware of the Redlands Bay Renegade, I'm assuming that's Steve. He owns the Redlands Bay Distillery, which now produces, aside from some absolutely magnificent gins and dessert. Do I say dessert gins? I don't know. I believe they've got some whiskey in a barrel now. So I'll be very intrigued to get back home and give that a bit of a taste. The venue itself is absolutely spectacular. It's in Capalaba. If you are not a gin drinker, then there is the whiskey. There is also soft drinks and a few other things. But right next door, like literally sharing a wall, is Bacchus Brewing. And you can get a beer there quite happily. And there is food trucks there, all sorts of things. So go and check out Redlands Bay Distillery in Capalaba, folks. Really good gin. And you'll see them in the markets. They do a lot of the markets, particularly around the Redlands, but I think they go a bit further afield too. And say hi. Steve's an old mate. Known him since he was just a wee little lad sticking things in transmitters when he was doing his radio technician course back in the day. Thank you for this one, Pete. A tip for people on LPG, try for small servos that semi-tankers can't get to. Small servos get heating gas instead, better economy and performance. You know what else small servos get when semi-tankers can't get into them? They get really tight for me because I'm not quite a semi-trailer, but I'm big. The trailer is not big, and thankfully I've been saved by it being narrower than the bus width, getting out of a couple of these little servos, filling up on the way down. There is one in particular before you turn off the Hume Highway going to Canberra, Bundadoor or somewhere like that it's called, and it's on the Sydney bound lanes, and I pulled in there, got 220 litres of LPG, and I held my breath getting out of there because I was up against all sorts of gutters and their awning, the shop awning, and and there was a group of Indians who were standing at the door of the store, if you like, watching me because they'd all seen, it was going to be quite a tight little exit. They wanted to see what I was going to hit. And I didn't hit anything, thankfully. And they all gave me a round of applause as I swung past them, got out. So they are quite fascinated, I've discovered, with our big trucks. And not that mine is a big truck, but it's certainly big by their standards. And everybody over there wants to be a truck driver, or at least when they come over here, they want to be a truck driver. So hello to all the guys I've seen driving the B-doubles on the road. Stay on your side of the road. Everything will be good. Everything will be good. No, don't say it, Carl. Seen some interesting things on the road with our Indian cousins driving. Just saying. Ooh. Redlands Bay Renegade isn't Steve. There you go. Well, anyway, I've given Steve a big plug, and thanks for reminding me, though. He's done very well. All right, folks, I'm going to shoot off. I'm absolutely knackered today. I don't know. Been a lot of stress trying to get this LPG thing going again, and there's been a few other bits and pieces. The last thing I needed was that bloody tyre thing last night, but thankfully it didn't cost any money, just cost time. And thank you to Michael and his wonderful other half, Doris, who look after me so well when I've been here. I saw them, stayed here a couple of weeks ago, and Michael left for work, I think, this morning at 4:30, and he apologised that he couldn't do bacon and eggs for breakfast. And it's like, don't need to be doing that. He's made dinner. Oh my God, some of the food. Michael and and Doris are Polish, and the food. Oh my Lord, the food and the beer. I drank a beer today that was almost as good as Patrizia's juice. So she's got competition, and it was all made out of fruit as well. And there was some cherry stuff in it and all sorts of stuff. It's a magnificent drop. Just it's quite sweet, but oh, magnificent drop. So, and I think I said at the time, it's it's as good as Patrizia's juice. The difference being, I can still drive the bus after drinking Patrizia's juice. I won't be able to do that after drinking Michael's beer. And if I keep going around drinking Michael's beer, I think it's a very, very safe bet to say that I just might become one of those dickheads on the road. Love your work, folks. See you soon.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!